Now, the first 15 degrees of Cancer are to do with decision, deciding who to be, what to be, where to be, who with, what's our loyalties, those kind of important things which represents the decision of who I am. In the second 16 degrees of Cancer, we're talking about consolidation, making this more so. And we begin with the fourth expression of Cancer, maturity. The process of growing up requires us to take into account all of the information that we've got, the knowledge, the advice, the understandings that we've gleaned from experiences. And this is represented by the manuscript in Cancer 16. And the square suggests inclusivity, whereas in contrast to the cross in the Western culture, the mandala of the East sort of includes this idea of the square holding things within it. This is what Rudyard says anyway. And the combined image then of 16 is that we have to include all the bits and pieces of all the experiences that we've had, the understandings, the teachings, the opinions, include it all in our sense of consolidation and maturing into kind of a greater, deeper, more profound version of ourselves. And in Cancer 17, the germ is growing through its development of knowledge and experiences of life. The twin polarity there, knowledge on the one hand and experience on the other, worthy of contemplation. It could be said that our incarnation itself is simply to experience life in real terms, physical, in your face. This is it. This is who you are. Experience it. That's incarnation. But out of this experience, when we return to a disembodied state of spirit, then we are assimilating those experiences into the realm of knowledge. We kind of understand them. We understand the patterns of life. We get a deeper sense of all and everything. And then we incarnate again and we can have another set of experiences. Well, that bigger rhythm is married up with the smaller rhythm in life. In a sense, the breathing is the same thing. We have this twin action of breathing out and breathing in. And breathing out, we're expressing ourselves in the world, and breathing in, we're withdrawing and contemplating things. That's exactly the same metaphor. And so, as we do this breathing is the essence of growth, isn't it? The germ is a seed with life. It has come alive. And the potentials that we were studying in the 16th degree come alive into our breath. And we start to use our personality potentials in a fuller, deeper, wider sense. The potential is turned into an experience, and that's intensifying our knowledge of ourselves, and then we have a greater degree of reach and influence with more experiences and so on. And that is the maturation process. Experience something, think about it, learn from it, and have the knowledge of it. Experience something else, know what that meant, something else, and so on. And so we're going through this process of maturing in order that we can reach Cancer 18, the hen scratching for her chicks. Adult responsibility, basically. This is when we're grown up, or we're growing up further at least. And to accept responsibility for someone else, or even if it starts with a pet or a garden, it comes to children in the end, and then perhaps it's a group of people of a larger context. You might become a supervisor or a boss at work or something like that. And more and more, you become a greater set of shoulders, a stronger set of shoulders. You can carry more responsibilities. And the processes of building community are indicated here. That's what's kind of hinted at as maturity. as we mature, we tend to become more central in the governance of community, and therefore we have to adopt more of its own rituals and so on. And the 19th degree is where the priest is sanctifying marriage. Well, marriage, what is marriage? You know, you can have sex, you can have babies, you don't need a bit of paper to do those things. So why do we need a bit of paper? Well, it's more than that, isn't it? It's the priest doing it. It's not just getting married and having a certificate. It's actually being blessed, putting yourself in the presence of God. And even those people that don't really give God much lip service from time to time, there's 2 or 3 things that they do in the course of their lives where they would do it in a house of worship. And getting married is one of those. Dying is another. And being born is another. Hatched, matched, and dispatched, as my mother would like to say. We do need ritual. We do need it sanctified, made sacred, in order for us to mature fully. Because until we've actually moved ourselves into some knowledge of the sacred, however casual we are about that, most people have some knowledge of the sacred. And this is an aspect of maturity, our relationship with whatever we consider sacred. And the community in which you have some influence will have its own rules and regulations sanctified by some officer of sanctification, so a priest for the Christian church, for example. But there'd be another version if they weren't Christian, and even if they weren't religious, there'd be another version of someone who's sanctifying or sanctioning the behavior, even if it's a mob boss, in a mafia or something. You can do that, but you can't do that, and there are penalties. You have to behave within the context, the sanctified context of your community to demonstrate full maturity. And when we come to the 20th degree of Cancer, where these are the gondoliers serenading, we're noticing that certain behaviors are permissible and certain ones are not. There's a very definite moral code that separates the okay to not okay. And the gondoliers are romancing their women in the appropriate way. And it's not so much a figure of romance here, it's a figure of appropriateness. The whole thing of romance and sex and marriage and so on and so forth, these are very poignant. These bring up the emotions. So that's why we're talking about that set of behaviors. But really it's a wider context than that. The mature person does behave in keeping with the context of the community, whereas they might have different ideas and different personal choices about how to be outside of that community context when they're alone. Nevertheless, when they're in the community, they would be an exemplar, an example of the best behavior of community. And when we reach that level of maturity, whatever we feel inside, we're not rebellious anymore against some system. We're either moving creatively, intelligently, effectively to improve things. If we can see that there's an imperfection, we do our best to improve things. Or we talk to the right people, or we do something, but we don't rebel against things. Rebelliousness empowers things. So if you rebel against something you don't like, you empower it. You give attention, passionate attention to something, that gives it a lot of energy. So we learn through this process of maturity to hold in our rebelliousness and to behave in keeping with the community. So this is a very definite process. We've started with the manuscript, which is giving us a sense of what potential we have. We've awakened that potential in our experiences and our knowledge, and we've come to understand that really we need to care for something else in order to develop ourselves. That's the thing. This is us developing maturity that we're talking about, and we do that by caring for another. And we do that in the way sanctioned by the community rituals. And then we know how to behave, and that's what we do in the community sense. Knowing how to behave, that's maturity.